Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 22 of the Unstoppable Entertainment Show, the most comprehensive entertainment news show on the internet. I am, of course, Nate Schaffner, otherwise known as the Unstoppable Nate. How are you all doing this week? I hope you're doing okay. I hope everything's all right. And if not, I hope that this show provides a brief respite from whatever it is that you're going through in life. So here's the thing. It's been kind of a slow news week, and so when that happens, I try to think of things uh, to talk about in terms of like my interests that and how that relates to the entertainment industry, and also things that might provide a window into the kind of person that I am. And I suppose that um, I realized something that I could talk about this week without realizing it. um, so lately, I've been listening to a lot of movie soundtracks, film scores, um, and I thought, that could be something that I discuss I talk about on the show. Um, so several weeks ago I talked about, I gave you guys a window into my life, and a path, and how and my journey to get here. I guess you could say, and I mentioned that I have a background in music. I sung with choirs, and traveled the world singing. And the best I guess the best way I could put it is that I've always um, music. I've had two passions in my life. One is film and television, and the other is music. Music is something that I've always understood, um, and I've always I've always loved um, orchestral music. I love the sound of orchestras, um, and uh, it's just I am absolutely one of these people. Like, if I'm driving by myself in the car, I will crank up a good film score, and just like find myself conducting in the car, and just and I totally know that it looks weird to other people driving around, and I don't care. But um, it's just I again, music is something that I've always understood, and I really believe that great film music um, can uh, be as everlasting as um, some of our great historic music composers. Um, I was watching this interview. I was watching this documentary called Empire of Dreams. It's this documentary about the making of the original Star Wars trilogy. And John Williams, who of course is a legend in the film score, in the art of film music, was talking about how when he and George Lucas were talking about doing the music for um, the original Star Wars, that George Lucas had suggested that, the music should connect, like it should represent things that we've never seen, but also provide an emotional anchor to what we're seeing. And that is, I think, what great film music can do, is provide an emotional anchor to what we see on the screen. And it's a great film score can be quite memorable. And I wanted to talk about some film scores and music composers who work in the art, in the medium of film. So if you'll indulge me for a few minutes today, this is going to be kind of a little bit off the cuff, if you can't tell, this week. But I just wanted to talk about my love of music and my love of film music. I mean, John Williams to me is a legend, and he's the greatest of all time. I mean, doing Star Wars, Superman, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, E.T. He's and I think I know I've seen every film that he's done music for, like every Steven Spielberg movie that he's done music for. I know that, and everything that he's done with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas is fantastic and legendary. And it's I mean, Jaws. I mean, just those two notes, da 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 da. I mean, who would have thought that would become as memorable as it did? And again, as far as I'm concerned, he's the greatest ever. There's also, I love Danny Elfman music. The stuff that he's done with Tim Burton. The Batman film score. What else did he do? Oh, he did the music for Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy is such a gem of a movie and so underappreciated. And I love the music. And he's also done some music. He's done a few superhero movies too. Music for a couple of superhero movies. I love Danny Elfman's music for the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. There's Thomas Newman. He's a composer who works in film. He's done the soundtrack for Shawshank Redemption, Finding Nemo, American Beauty. That score is absolutely fantastic. And again, it's I am so passionate about film music in general. Again, I'm just somebody who will just sit back, relax, and just just kind of and just listen to it and enjoy it. I remember I remember I got the soundtrack to The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and the music was done by James Horner. And I remember I think I got it from for one of my birthdays or Christmases. I got it, and after we were all done opening our gifts, I went down to my room and put it into my put the soundtrack into my can't even think of the word. Um, stereo. I put the soundtrack into my stereo and cranked it up and just listened to it all day. I love that soundtrack so much. I am a huge fan of Howard Shore, his work, um, his music that he did for the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. I love that those soundtracks so much. Um, those soundtracks also help me personally. Um, like I as I've mentioned before, I live with severe anxiety and depression, and sometimes a lot of times actually when I'm really down, I can listen to the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit soundtracks. I can listen to those and just uh, that music really calms me down. Um, and Howard Shore, he's also done music for David Cronenberg movies like The Fly. He also did the music for Silence of the Lambs, which is that score is that music is brilliant. Um, I love there was a composer by the name of Jerry Goldsmith. He was mostly known for he did a lot of music in the 70s and even more in the 80s. But to me, he will always be known as the guy who did most of the soundtracks for the Star Trek, the modern, like Star Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, and uh, a lot of the movies. And I remember when Jerry Goldsmith died, he went before his time, and that it was that again, as someone who is both a huge Star Trek fan and a huge film and television um, music fan, I was crushed when he died, and I miss him as I'm sure a lot of people do. And Jerry Goldsmith actually, I believe he won an Emmy for his Star Trek for his theme, the Star Trek Voyager theme, and it's beautiful music. It's it's gorgeous. And speaking of Star Trek, I love the Star Trek film soundtracks. There was who I've been listening to the soundtrack to um I to Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, um, which was the last um, Star Trek movie with the classic cast, with the series with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and um, so Cliff Idleman um, did the score, did the music um, for that movie, and I love that soundtrack. Um, and I love all the Star Trek uh, movie soundtracks. You know, the theme to Star Trek First Contact is beautiful. Um, I I I'm kind of there are certain Hans Zimmer film scores that I love. I haven't listened to a lot of him. Um, you know, obviously his score, his music for the both the original Lion King and the remake are great. Um, his collaborations with um, Christopher Nolan, who's the filmmaker who made the Dark Knight trilogy and Interstellar and Inception, and I find um, Hans Zimmer's collaborations with Christopher Nolan. I find Hans Zimmer's work that he's done for Christopher Nolan is some of my favorite stuff ever. Um, the Dark Knight trilogy. I love the music for Interstellar. Um, there's a composer by the name of Michael Abels, who's done a lot of. He did work on the Jordan Peele films, Get Out and Us, and I believe also Nope. He did the music for Nope, and his stuff is so good. Um, there's another person by the name of Ramin Djawadi. He did the music for the first Iron Man movie, Pacific Rim, Eternals, and I love the soundtrack to Pacific Rim. Who else? You know, Mika Levy, Mika Levy, um, did the music for Under the Skin. Um, there's this movie called Jackie, where Natalie Portman played Jackie Kennedy Onassis. Um, Mika Levy did the music for that movie. Um, there's a composer by the name of Bear McCreary who did the music for for Godzilla King of the Monsters. I think he did the Happy Death Day movies. He did the score for this movie called Last Voyage of the Demeter. Um, so um, I just I love film music so much, and again, it's as someone who has a background in music, I find that music is something that I understand and something that I am very passionate about, and I love film music so much. And again, it's just something that I uh, sometimes, excuse me. So, um, I I I used to drive for Lyft, for Uber and Lyft, and a lot of times on the weekends I would be on my way home late at night, really late at night, and uh, I would find um, that listening to film music really it does it does a lot of things for me. It energizes me. It calms me down, and when I would be on my way home really late at night driving for Uber and Lyft, I would listen to, there's this track on the Dark Knight soundtrack called Agent of Chaos, and um, it's the piece of music that plays when um, there's that sequence in the Dark Knight movie where the Joker escapes prison, and Commissioner Gordon and Batman go to save Rachel and Harvey Dent, and they end up saving the opposite person. And there's this track on the Dark Knight soundtrack called Agent of Chaos, and that's the piece of music that plays during that sequence in the movie. And I love that. I love that piece of music. And a lot of times when I would be on my way home late at night driving for Uber and Lyft, I would play that, to energize me and to, keep me awake. Um, and that's the other thing too, is that I am such a film music junkie that I can, if I'm familiar with a piece of music enough, I can I can identify, oh, this piece of music plays during this part of the movie. I I I am such a nerd, but it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. Um, but I just wanted to take a few minutes here and talk about um, my love of music, and more specifically my love of film music. It's just something that I've always understood. Music is something that I've always understood, and I've also understood music in terms of its relationship to uh, film and television. It's just something that I've passionate about, that I am passionate about, um, and just something that I, yeah. So I hope I didn't um, I hope I didn't bore you guys too much. I just wanted to think of something that Michael Giacchino. Uh, sorry, that just popped into my head. There's a film music composer by the name of Michael Giacchino. He's done. Let me because this is it's crazy the amount of work that he's done, and it's great. And he's one of, I think the other thing too is that nowadays you get a lot of film music that's done with electronics and synthesizers. And the thing about Michael Giacchino's work is that he uses orchestras. I'm not too big on electronics and electronic music and stuff like that. I'm not too big on it. I'm more of an orchestra guy. Um, so Michael Giacchino, most notably, he did the music for the more recent Star Trek films, and I love the music for that for those films. He did the music for the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, which I just recently watched. Um, Let me see here. What else did he do? He did the music for um, let's see, The Incredibles, um, War for the Planet of the Apes. He did the music. He did the score for. He did the music for War of the Planet of the Apes, Rogue One, Doctor Strange. God, the soundtrack, the score for Doctor Strange is incredible. Um, Zootopia, Inside Out. Um, he's done. He did the music for Mission Impossible 3. He did the score for Mission Impossible 3, which is spectacular. Up. Let me see here. Um, he's Michael Giacchino is one of, I think he may be one of the last um, film music composers who works with orchestras, and I that's kind of bittersweet. I think, um, you know, um, but I love film music so much, and it um, film music does it does so much for me personally. And I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about it. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much with this. I was trying to think of something to talk about briefly today. Um, and again, I think that film music I think the best film music provides a great emotional anchor to what we see on the screen. And I just wanted to talk about a few of my favorite film music composers, and hopefully I didn't bore you, and hope you guys enjoyed the show. And please, if you know of any good film soundtracks or film music composers that you like, let me know, and I'll search them out, or we can talk about it or whatever. So I wanted to talk about this for a few minutes. I will be back next weekend, so I hope you guys continue to enjoy the show. And until next week, I will see you at the movies.